Or,
Sometimes I do.
oh, them things get wickedly mean. Grab my wrong papers.
Oh.
Okay, at 7 o'clock, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Darcy, would you call the roll, please?
Moore.
Here.
Mar.
Here.
Moody.
Here.
Ingstrom.
Here.
Engelhardt.
Here.
Right, thank you. Item 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 4 is perfection and approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for that, please?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Carried. Okay, thanks. All right, item 5 is public comment time. Anybody here for public comment? Okay, seeing none. And we'll go on to item 6, which is boards and organizations, and this is for budget requests for FY 25-26. I suppose we've got most of you folks are here for that. So one at a time, please. Come on up to the podium and tell us who you are, because we are broadcasting, and go from there.
Okay, my name is Crystal Dovey, and I'm here as the Postal Public Library Director. So I have a couple handouts for you guys, and I'm going to go really quick, and then a couple of my board members are going to talk about a couple things. Most of this packet is just where I get my numbers and things from. So if you're like, Crystal said a thing, how am I getting that confirmed? That's the data. So for the library, we're asking for a $4,000 increase for our city donation for this year. I asked for the same amount last year, and we did not get any kind of increase. We haven't had an increase for 3 fiscal years. This is typically before when we would get an increase. It had been for about the last 9 years. It had been every 3 years. Some of you may not be aware that libraries in our state are broken up into different groupings based on population of town. So in Postville, we're what's called a D library. There are 52 in the state, and we are the worst funded by our city in the entire state. I'm asking for $4,000 more for our city donation, which would still keep us last. So I'm asking to remain last in funding, but just to get a small increase. In order for us to be second last, it would take $17,001. So we're nowhere close to being second last, unfortunately. What I would like to do from now on, instead of coming here every 3 years and bombarding you with data and lists and information and begging for an increase, is if we could just do a regular increase every year for the library, $1,500 to $2,000, so that we can try and keep staff, keep paying for the increase in books and supplies and everything being more expensive. Our insurance alone has almost tripled since I took over. So every time we give a raise, which we have over the past 2.5 years I've been there, something else has to get sacrificed. So for me to give a staff member a raise, I have to buy less books, or I have to spend less on summer reading, or I have to turn the AC down or turn the heat up or something, So the next section is showing you cities with similar property tax revenue and what they give their libraries. I just stuck to property tax. I believe that probably our funding comes from the general fund every year. So the general fund and property tax revenue is more meaningful than all these other earmarked things. So we're there. You can see our numbers. You can see Fayette gives $100,000 to their library, and we're only getting $52,000. Fayette's a much smaller community and has much smaller property tax revenue. Strawberry Point gives $15,000 more to their library than we get. and a couple other cities there. So again, emphasizing we get the lowest city donation of any city in the whole state for our size library. Not comparing us to Des Moines, not comparing us to Decorah. Even if we took our city and put us in the C category, which is where all those smaller cities are, we would still be in the bottom 20% for cities that are smaller than us. So I have some ways I've cut money. I'm not just sitting there hoping for more money. We've cut a lot of the books we were buying before that were auto buys. Those were series that were ongoing, and somewhere along the line, we just stopped reading them. So we used to do pens and calendars. I stopped paying for those. We used to pay for people to get the windows cleaned. I stopped paying for that. We got rid of Hoopla. We stopped subscribing to a bunch of magazines. I've cut my hours specifically to try and be able to afford more employees and organize some supplies so that we aren't doubling up on things. We've also increased our revenue to the best of our abilities. A library is not a revenue generating entity, right? By the nature of what it is. So, but I did increase our prices on copies, specifically color copies, while keeping black and white copies the same price because those are kind of a necessity. We raised prices on faxes. I have applied and received a number of grants for buying books in Spanish. We work with a local nonprofit and get hundreds of books for free every year. We've increased the amount of books we loan out through interlibrary loan. We make money on those books. So we've got some books I'll buy that get borrowed 15, 20 times at another library. It's about $3 a pop when we do that. So we've revamped our book sales to get books out and get people in. And we've increased the amount of patrons this last year by over 25%. So my first year's library director, we had 6,900 people come through. And this last year we had 9,600. That's a 25% increase in 1 year. So we helped almost 10,000 people for the last fiscal year. And then we increased what little revenue we can by 71%. That would be copies and faxes. I found something really interesting when organizing. In 2001, the city actually gave us $55,000 as a city donation. For those of you bad at math, that was 24 years ago, and it was more money than we get now. So to keep up with inflation, we would need $98,000 to equal what we had in 2001. Not asking for that, just asking for $4,000. And library director pay. I do have a small update on this. I was the worst paid library director in the whole state until this month. I'm now third to last. So hurrah. Thank you, library board, for giving me a raise. You rock. That's my pay after taxes. My pay is also posted in the newspaper every month. It's super fun to see that amount of money. The whole community can see what I make. I would make more as an assistant at just about any library around us than I do as the library director. And there's a lot more responsibility as library director. We recently lost our bilingual staff member because she can make $3.50 somewhere else in town. And I don't mean Quick Start, and I don't mean Casey's. I mean another individual office. She makes $3.50 more an hour, and I don't blame her for leaving. I don't know how I'm supposed to pay new staff more when staff that have been there 17 years make $14 an hour, and I started at $15 an hour. We have cut our budgets as much as possible and moved things around, but we really need to hire another employee since we lost the previous one. And I'm just not sure we're going to be able to do that. So anyway, so there's some things we might have to cut if we don't get any kind of an increase. I don't know how much longer I feel like using duct tape to try and get things to work at the library. If I'm not paid, again, I'm not even asking for fair compensation. I'm just asking for better. And then just some information about vulnerable populations and how much they rely on our libraries. Maybe some things that you're not thinking about. Our senior citizens in town rely on us for computer help, phone help, avoiding scams, low income tax prep. We are a place for children to go after school or on the weekend or all summer, if the case may be, where they can be safe. Our immigrant populations are especially vulnerable to a lot of these scams. They don't all have computer and tech skills. They have to make a lot of copies when they're filing for asylum, when they're trying to get their, green cards renewed, when they're doing all these things we want them to be doing. They have to come to us to get those things copied and email those things and fax those things. A lot of them are getting taken advantage of in town. Some of them pay up to $200 to have someone interpret or translate something for them versus coming to the library where they can ask us questions and not get ripped off. So anyway, also poverty. Folks are living in poverty in our community, of which there are a ton. We have free computers that are almost always full, free books, help finding services and resources, help finding better jobs. And also, we do have actually quite a few homeless folks coming through the library. Sometimes they just sit there and need a place to get warm and or cool. Sometimes they meet with Iowa Works to try and find a job. Sometimes they use a computer to try and find a new place to live or find another job. So, and then the last page is a list of all the organizations or groups that use the library. And then the next like 4 pages are just the documentation of showing you where all those numbers came from that I got. And Clara, you wanna come up?
Hello, I'm Clara Lansing, President of the Postville Library Board, and I want to thank you for allowing me to address you this evening. I don't need to tell you, you already know that we're a very unique community with its challenges, and our library is no different. The library is a non-revenue raising entity that serves our whole community. A few of the services we offer besides providing books and magazines for checkout include the summer reading program has been growing in leaps and bounds each year. Crystal makes sure that we have a dietary appropriate snacks for the children that attend. We've added play and stay for the young children, tech support, bilingual story time, and reading at Head Start. Chip and Clip is another popular program that is offered to our patrons quarterly. Workforce development comes to the library each week to assist with those looking for a job. There were Spanish-speaking volunteers that helped with setting up appointments when the Guatemalan consulate came to Postville. And Wi-Fi usage continues to increase monthly. We are the only accessible free Wi-Fi in town. In 22-23, we had 6,900 patrons that use the library. And in 23-24, there were 8,600, an increase of 25%. And as Crystal was saying, of the 52 libraries in Iowa that are in Class D, Postville has the lowest financial support from the city of the 52 libraries in Class D. Many libraries do not pay their utilities and insurance with their city donation. Currently, over a quarter of our city donation goes to insurance and utilities alone. Having done the school budget for over 30 years, I understand what you're faced with. I have a proposal for your consideration as you work on the budget. Would the City Council be receptive to paying the library's insurance premium? Since fiscal year 2020, the insurance has gone up 245%. In 2020, it cost us $1,800.30. This current year, we're paying almost $6,500 for our insurance alone. That's not utilities, just insurance. So it's gone up 245%. A couple of short-term goals that the library board would like to consider are the computers have some age on them, and we'll need to start upgrading before very long. They're always very busy. We need to replace our bilingual employee who left for higher pay and more hours. And as of now, we have 2 part-time employees. There are days when only one is working, and if they need to be gone, we need to close the library. We've worked hard to reach our accreditation and are required to be open a certain number of hours each week to maintain this accreditation. We need to provide a fair compensation to our employees to retain good, competent employees. And I want to thank you for your past support of the Postville Public Library and consideration of increasing your support for fiscal year 26. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara.
I'm just going to give you a couple letters while another of my board member comes up. Don't worry, I'm not going to have the whole board talk. That would probably have the opposite effect of what I want, wouldn't it?
Good evening. My name is Julie Heitland, and I am on the Postville Library Board. I am also a retired Postville School teacher librarian for 28 years. as part of my job at the school, I worked very closely with the public library as well as the AEA. And with 8 cuts being made to the AEA, the connection between the school and the public library is going to become more crucial. I went to Cindy and I went to Crystal for interlibrary loans, which are, if I didn't have a book, the AEA didn't have a book, I went to the public library and we borrowed the book, whether it was for students, whether it was for teachers. We borrowed a lot of materials for students and staff for teaching purposes or for personal reading. If a teacher wanted to teach a certain novel and I couldn't find enough copies for a classroom, I would go to the public library and we would borrow copies from across the state to get enough copies so that each student could have a copy of the book as they were reading that novel. Teachers are required every 5 years to renew their license, and to do that, they have to take classes. I would interlibrary loan from colleges textbooks and that sort of thing so that they wouldn't have to buy their own textbook to keep their license current. I taught students how to access the public library from school so that they could find their own materials in the public library. And if they couldn't get there, they'd tell me what they wanted and I'd go get it for them. So they were able to do that from their laptops or from their iPads at school. We work very closely with the 1st and 2nd grade teachers and take all of the students down to the public library and they get their own library card. So that encourages them to come back and keep using the library. And I've been in there a lot of days since I retired, after school, early out days. The library is very busy with kids who don't have any place else to go. They can't go to daycare because maybe they've aged out or parents can't afford the daycare. So their safe haven place is going to be at the library. And they're on the computers and they're reading books and they're doing whatever in the library, behaving themselves. But that's a place where they go after school till their parents go home or the library closes or whatever, so that they can be safe. I use the library a lot. I'm in there probably almost every week getting things for myself. For other people, I still go in and do a lot of things, even though I'm no longer working. So I would encourage you to consider the connection between school and daycare and the library. Those 3 all work in conjunction with one another. Crystal has something going on in the library all the time. Thank you.
Library done? Are you done presenting? All right. So who's next? I don't know who's sitting out there. So
Crystal, who's the second?
Bernadette.
Okay.
hey,
Might be extras. Let's grab on the other end. How's everyone tonight?
good.
Christy Turner, I'm the director of Child Care Center. So first I want to start off by, before I get into the child care, voicing my support for the library. They do a lot for the Child Care Center and our summer program. We're able, students go and walk to the library, and Crystal is so kind to sit there and read them a book, and even when she has patrons coming in and out, she will support our program in that way. I also see her support Head Start, which is a very important program in our community. So the library is very important. So onto the Child Care Center. I just have to celebrate this last year and the support that the city provided to our efforts to raise funds for the Child Care Solution Fund, as well as the community. And with that, what we've been able to do. As we all know, access to quality childcare isn't just a family issue. It's critical for our economic health and the vitality of our community. So what got us started in this is understanding the data. Why do we need to focus on childcare? Well, 71% of households in Alameda County have children under 6 with both parents working outside the home. So that identifies them as a household that would need childcare.
And where Alameda County is considered a childcare desert. So we have a shortfall of over 1,700 childcare spaces for children up to the age of 12. For children 5 and under, there's a gap of about 290 childcare spaces, while current facilities can only accommodate about 9% of school-age children who are between ages 6 to 12. So this data underlines why we need to have a come together for a solution and address this, which you guys are part of doing that. And we were at risk of closing. However, we were able to access money through this fund. Investment is so important for our program to continue running, to be successful, and to allow people to have access to quality childcare. Our main issue is staffing shortages. So we couldn't enroll children on our waiting list, and even though there was this demand. Now, kind of fast forwarding on here, the fund, what I really thought was important about the fund was it kept costs manageable for our families. So the people who access our childcare center, the majority of them don't fall within the range of qualifying for childcare assistance, but don't make enough to afford what we would charge. So the Solutions Fund offered a subsidy in a way for the families that fell just above qualifying for childcare assistance. On average, our families would have to pay an additional $175 per child per month if we didn't have this fund available. Considering the fact that infant care alone costs a family around $11,000 annually, and that families with multiple children often pay around $24,000, the fund is just absolutely essential. And continuing to invest in our program, it helps our families be able to go to work. And these are our nurses, our teachers, our farmers, our hardworking families in our community. So despite the clear benefits, some argue that childcare is solely the responsibility of parents and providers, but I counter that parents and providers are already doing everything they can. It's not enough without additional support. When the entire community invests in a shared solution, the results are transformative, which is what this year really showed. We were able to bring 9 children off of our waiting list. We went from 16, mostly part-time staff, to now 22, and we continue to hire. We are finishing up a room. It's almost fully renovated, and we will be able to open that up and then provide additional care and hire additional staff. So we are maintaining and growing, and we want to be able to continue to meet the childcare needs of our hardworking families in the community. So I would just ask that, last year you guys were able to fund and invest, and I would ask for some continued investment this year. And I appreciate all that you have done and your consideration.
It's in the same amount. They're the same. What are you saying? I know you always take more, but
The same amount, more, what you feel would be helpful. I know that we did comment through that came and presented an idea of per capita. So considering something like that too.
Christy, this statistic here, 71% of the households in Alameda County have children. Boy, we are not an old fogey county, are we?
Yeah.
I mean, that is an eye opener to me. Wow.
Because we're old, because everybody.
Well, no, I mean,
I'm kidding.
that's a lot. Houses are good.
Yeah, and I would say people are continuing to grow their families. The majority of families calling need infant care.
Okay.
They're expecting more. They're expecting.
Yeah. Okay. Huh.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say something.
I was gonna say.
I have just a little different track than Christy. We kind of two-parted this. We came up last year and talked, and I think, I'm sorry, Tony Gerke on my board. Just want to talk a little about some of the things that we have done this year, in addition to our wage issues. Chrissy talked a little bit about the remodel that's going on for our infant world. That'll be up and running soon and enable us to expand our enrollment. We were able to use grant money from the community foundation to provide for a new stove and a new fridge for our kitchen. We also were able to obtain a mini grant, which paid for a new water fountain. Small thing, but it's got a bottle filler that the kids can use, and it's the right size for them. We also worked with our accountant, Christina Dryhouse, across the street. She worked with her QuickBooks sales rep. Given our nonprofit status, we were able to get a deep discount on QuickBooks and transferred our finances over to those, which was a big step for us. We were using a free software program that was severely outdated. We were also able to leverage some grant money to provide training for our employees. We did several fundraisers this year. One of our more successful ones was a coffee and donut sale that we raised $1,000 during our open house for. $1,000 for us is a big deal. We also were able to get our endowment up and running. I don't think I addressed that last year. We worked with the community foundation to set up an endowment specifically for the daycare center. We met our initial goal of $2,500. Which was to basically get the whole thing chartered and going. And then just at the end of last year, we were able to meet our initial goal of $7,500, which puts us into the repayment portion. Now it's small, we get like $350 back from the foundation, but obviously our goal there will be expand that out to a much larger amount. So I just wanted to touch base a little bit on some of the, I guess, more infrastructure and physical plant stuff that we've done this year to kind of keep things rolling. And Christy has done a wonderful job of looking at the wage situation and doing everything we can to leverage that. So thank you for your support last year, and we look forward to it this year.
Thanks, Don.
Anybody else from the board from their grant? Okay. All right, just real quick on childcare, we just keep hitting it, right? Val Ranke, McKee County Economic Development and Tourism. And if you remember, we were in and we passed these bad boys out. Okay, and that is basically the dollars that were raised, the dollars that we've used. It's 2 pages. So if you want to pass it around, it's 2 pages. But if you want details as to how the dollars were spent and the impacts and all of those good things, just know that the Child Care Coalition is strong. We meet monthly. The dollars were in fundraising mode, but we're also in education mode and advocacy mode. And I have been down to Des Moines with Christy. She is a great person to have talking childcare to the state. Obviously, she lives and breathes it. Parts of this is that with the Child Care Coalition in the fundraising, we have been now to every community. We have been to the Board of Supervisors. We have talked to a number of groups. We've been talking to the ATP Club. We've been talking to the clergy group in regard to May being Child Care Month in regard to passing the plate. We have been looking at the Inspire Her Driftless group. I will be talking to them tomorrow. Every dollar matters. And yes, if you give to the Child Care Coalition, you can earmark that for the Postville Child Care Center. So just so you know that. So please, please, please consider that. If you need more information, we've got a number of people on the coalition. Gary Bowden was with me last time. He is the city manager in Waukon, along with Michelle Barnes from Upper Explorer Land. She puts a lot of the numbers together for us. But just trying to keep that in front of you because you guys are a growing community in the county, and you are my youngest average age community. And so I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to at least say a few things about that. Is anybody else here to talk about childcare? Okay, then can I just keep going? Okay.
Well, you will.
All right. I'm going to. Yes, I just wanted to put a plug in for Northeast Regional Housing Trust Fund. If you remember back when Chris Trundle was here from Upper Explorer Land, they are asking you guys to please consider a dollar amount. I think it's $12,000 a year. But that is a program that continually makes homes more energy efficient, puts a new roof on, puts doors on, to try and take care of the housing stock that is here. I do know that Postville has been a recipient of those dollars, and knowing the dollars that you've put in, it's been a really good payback. But I understand it's more dollars out the door, but Chris cannot be here tonight, but I just want to remind you guys that that also is an ask. And then, of course, I am here because of Albuquerque County Economic Development. I did send a letter to you guys. We've always loosely run on the 2000 census at $3 a person. We finally, as a board, decided to maybe look at the 2020 census and look at $3.25 a person. I do know that you guys have worked with us in regard to the past, in regard to the dollars that you've been giving. I just wanted to remind you, I mean, I know that you guys have been to my annual meeting. I have a copy of the annual report here and a copy of my letter, but we are involved with the Albuquerque County Energy District. They have been in to talk to the city about possible energy saving type things, like especially solar on your library. We work with the Northeast Iowa Business Network because we realize that what's good for Northeast Iowa is good for all of us. We work with the Northeast Iowa Tourism Association. Once again, if we can bring people to Northeast Iowa, the goal is that they stay overnight, spend money, all those good things, but maybe there is a percentage of those people that will call this home. And the other piece is that we work with Child Care Coalition, obviously. The Driftless Area Scenic Byway, I serve on that board. That comes through your town. Obviously, we have a number of people that travel that, and we want to make sure that the tear-off map, we go through thousands of those at effigy mounds. Just so you know, we're ordering thousands more because people grab that map and they like to stop along the way. I'm involved with the State Tourism Board, and also we are involved with the State Economic Development Board. It's all about housing and childcare right now in order to keep our workforce and to grow our workforce. And so we have leadership training that will be coming up here this spring that you will be hearing more about, because we need to grow our leaders, and we're trying to offer some scholarships. We just approved that this past week. We have an entrepreneurship week where we have a number of trainings, and now we have an SBDC counselor that's here in the county that is free. So just a number of things like that. Also advocacy and pounding the door for tourism. I will be down with the state here shortly to do that, just like we've done with childcare. We've got STEM coming to the county at the end of April. That's where a lot of kids and their families go to get them interested in STEM. And we've got career fairs. Those are the things that I touch. And obviously, I think the world of the library here and what Crystal's been doing, because I send people that I'm working with, and I'm like, I need you to talk with Crystal. I need you to connect. They offer all of these services there, and they're free. So obviously, it's like Jenga, all the pieces, and we start pulling them out, and then it falls apart. So it's all about Jenga. And I will close with that. Okay. Amen.
Anybody else?
Ben Heitland here on behalf of the Area Ambulance Service. This year we're asking for $10,200. That's a $1,200 increase from last year. Over the last year, we've had to update our CPR mannequins, and those are not cheap. Continually trying to find ways to get people involved in EMS. We do currently have 2 people that are going to be taking the class, so that's exciting for us. But that also comes at a cost. A couple other things that we're going to be looking at is purchasing an automated vitals machine for our backup unit. Currently, we have a very nice monitor in our front unit, and then if our second unit has to go out, everything has to be done by hand. So allowing us to be able to look at some of the equipment, not as nice as the first up unit, but something that will help us to be able to provide better care that way as well. And then a couple portable suction machines to help clear out airways, stuff like that. Unfortunately, our reimbursements don't seem to be getting any bigger, and the cost of everything, especially in healthcare, is climbing. So that's where we're at.
How often do 2 units out at the same time?
It really kind of depends. I would say less often now than it has been in the past. And part of that is we're relying more on mutual aid because we are short on volunteers. So, I mean, currently real active people, we have 7, maybe 8, and at night it's quite a bit less. So we have had times where, you know, we'll drop somebody off and we'll get paged out and we'll have to run back to town and do it all over again. And so. Any other questions?
Ben, what does it cost to do CPR or excuse me, EMT class now?
So by the time you pay for tuition, books, uniforms, all of that, you're looking at $1,500 a person. So.
And do you pay that or do they pay
So we pay that and have them sign a contract
that?
that says they'll run with us for a certain number of years, and they'll run a certain number of calls each year, just as kind of yeah.
How many years do you do?
Typically in the past, it's been 3 years and 36 calls. So I think that's the contract that the 2 that are starting the class will be signing as well. And it just kind of protects us, but then it gives them the financial backing for something that they might not otherwise be able to do.
And then you help.
Pay it back if they don't.
Yeah, if they don't pass or if they don't fulfill their contract, then we ask them to pay it back. Yeah.
And then do you help reimburse with CEUs? Or is that out of pocket?
We do. We pay for people to go to conferences. So there's a big annual statewide conference in November down in Des Moines that I attend fairly regularly. Dubuque has had a conference. I don't know if that'll continue or not. Their numbers have been down. We are very fortunate. All of the counties in the area do provide an education day every year that they do at no cost. And then we provide education in-house at no cost. I shouldn't say no cost to the volunteers. We have to pay NICC to get hours approved for them. So.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm Brad Rose. This is, we're here on behalf of the Youth Sports Advisory Committee. We're going into about our 3rd year here of really kind of taking over youth rec and sports programs here in Postville. We're still under the Wellness and Rec Center. But just being able to kind of have a little bit more leadership role. First year into this, there was no budget request made that year, but we were able to offset most of the costs of the summer rec program from the previous budget. So last season, 2024 season, we really didn't have any funds from the city. This next coming season, we will have some funds again that was requested last year to offset that cost. We're asking for about $6,000, and if you see in that front page, most of that's going to be towards the cost of a lot of the coaches' pays and umpire fees that are cost there. You're looking at about $4,000 a year that we would budget for coaches' pay. This year, we were able to offset a lot of that through a grant that Melanie was able to receive from the Twins organization. And also convincing a lot of parents, hey, can you just volunteer your time for the cost of this? But ideally, we want to get our youth, college age, high school age level students involved in the coaching to get them that experience. This youth level is probably a good jumping in point for many of those people. So again, we want to try to encourage the youth people to take on those jobs there. And so again, about $4,000 a year is kind of what we're looking at roughly as we're into our third year now, looking at how much that's going to cost, as well as the umpire pay. We usually average about $50 a game, and you can look anywhere up to probably about 30 games a year taking place here in Postville, where we're going to need to cover the umpire costs there. And then also we do pay a field manager to manage the field, get the paints and chalk ready and things like that for every home game. And then also on top of that, just the liability insurance that the rec needs to cover for having doing something for that. On top of that, $6,000 in budget, we can generally estimate about $3,000 to $4,000 in registration fees each year. We turn over to the next page there, the second page there. You can kind of get a general idea of what that goes covering: uniforms, game equipment, just typical field maintenance. From what we've seen, that registration fee is what's been covering a lot of that equipment replacement, things like that, for both the baseball and the swim team there. On top of that, we've been very busy as a rec committee. Things that we've done to improve the facilities, we've come up with, gotten a new computer purchase for the swim team. Purchase a new meet manager program for the swim team. You take a look at the city field. We've been doing a lot of work there. We're able to put up a very nice electronic scoreboard that we're able to basically purchase and install pretty much free or at no cost to us. I shouldn't say free, no cost to us. There's a lot of effort from people like Andy Deering, putting a lot of his time and effort into this, but also just donations from the Umpqui Community Foundation, Hall Roberts, Sons Kroll, Prime Electric, West Union Trenching, John's Appliance. We created or set up a batting cage. Just our facility to be ready to go this summer. And then on top of that, we've been very thankful for the Twins program as well, to be able to offer a lot of equipment that really saves us a lot of money. That, again, also thanks to Melanie at the rec for working really well to help get a lot of those grants received. On top of that, we do raise money from concessions funds, and swim team did do a fundraiser. Like I said, we are very frugal this year with our efforts, and that concessions fees and that fundraising is basically what kept us in the black this year. So, and then like I said, we're going to ask for that $6,000, and that's, if you're wondering where that would primarily go, would be basically cover costs, coaches, umpires, and
Thank you.
Coach, yes. Anybody else? All right. Well, thanks for your presentations. We're going to start meeting here shortly and pound out a budget. So we'll see what we got for dollars. Everybody, you all well worth what you're asking for. It's just that we're not the federal government and we do not print money here.
I don't think they do.
Well, yeah, they sure as hell do. So we will work with what we got, okay? And believe us, we'll work at it hard. All right. Okay. Anything else on that one then? All right. If not, we'll go on to item 7. That's Corey.
Evening. I'm going to hand out another packet of information for you. Not asking for money though, so at least not directly, but and I'll kind of go through this with you all.
bit. So what I'm here tonight to do is to basically just talk about our county's hazard mitigation plan, which obviously is a just like it sounds like. It's about trying to mitigate dangers and hazards to the residents within the county and to the facilities within the county. Obviously, the plan. Oh, this is your hard copy here, so assuming you get that. So yeah. And basically, what it is, obviously, is the jurisdictions that participate in this plan are all 6 cities within the county itself, and the 3 school districts. Actually, just was at the Postville School District meeting at 5:30 and did their presentation here. So basically, what it is, again, this is a 5-year plan. It was updated in 2023. And so again, in 5 years, 2020, we'll have to update it again. So again, it's required that we update it every 5 years by FEMA. The benefit of the plan is twofold. Obviously, the first benefit is, again, it helps jurisdictions that participate to look at ways they can mitigate dangers and hazards to their residents and to also to their facilities. And secondly, it makes you eligible for certain federal grant money. And so my goal is to come out at least on an annual basis, just to kind of put this plan back in front of everybody so that they're aware of it. I'm not going to go through everything in depth here on this plan. I just want my main goal tonight is just to bring your awareness back to it, give you some time to look through the packet. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to come back or to talk one-on-one with whoever may have any questions on that. The key thing to understand about the plan is that when you look through the packet, there's potential projects in there. There's no obligation for you to do any of the projects in this plan. There's no penalty or anything else like that. It's just potential things that you're trying to do over the next 5 years. If there's something that you want to add to it, that can be done also. And I'll kind of talk about that near the end of the presentation. So real quick, I'm going to go through, briefly cover a couple of these handouts. So the first one is this one here. This looks like this. It's kind of thick. It's about 12 pages long. I'm not going to go through this in depth, but this basically identifies the grants that require hazard mitigation plans. And these are the grants that I have visibility on through the state of Iowa's Emergency Management Department, and that I can actually see on the software program that they utilize for that. The 3 primary grants that we're talking about are the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, which is HMGP, and I'll kind of talk about each one of these separately. The next one is the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant, which is called BRIC. And then the Flood Mitigation Assistance, which is FMA. There's 2 other grants on there. One of them is called Public Assistance Hazard Mitigation. What that basically deals with is that if you have a federally declared disaster, you're receiving federal assistance, public assistance, that if you decide to do a hazard mitigation program on top of that assistance, then you would need the plan to identify that. Otherwise, it's not required for you just to get public assistance. That's a separate thing. The bottom one there, that pre-disaster mitigation PDM grant, that actually is a grant that is actually worked directly to Congress, actually. So that actually is done through Congress members at the federal level. So if you were interested in something on that, there's a bit of information in this packet about that. You actually would talk to the federal legislative representative for our area, whether Senate or House of Representatives. So basically the grants on there that I'm going to talk about. So this packet kind of talks about the requirements, what these grants mean, some of the programs that are eligible for this. The Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, HMGP, that is a good grant from the standpoint that it is actually only competitive within the state of Iowa. So how that grant works is that when there's a disaster, a federally declared disaster in the state of Iowa, there's a percentage of money that is actually given to the state of Iowa to do hazard mitigation projects or programs and stuff. So this last year in 2024, Iowa had 3 federally declared disasters. So we actually have 3 HMGP grants that just became opened up because of that. We don't know how much money is going to set aside for that. That's not been determined yet, but the grants are actually available for notice of interest. So oddly enough, the worse the disaster, the more money spent, the more money that the state of Iowa gets. It's kind of a weird thing how it works, but it's only eligible when there's actually a disaster, which we typically have one about every year. Last year was a bad year with 3 of them. One of the biggest ones was the derecho. Obviously, was obviously a huge disaster there. But again, the benefit of it is that it's competitive at the state level, so you're not competing against other states. Now, the state of Iowa does have its own programs and projects identified within a cap how they want to advance. But sometimes this is good for small little programs.
Where this was used recently in the county was the city of Waterville actually got us outdoor warning siren through this grant, in a sense. So they took a couple years for them to get it because sometimes you're not eligible to get it right away. But then, 2 or 3 years later, it's still out there. It's just, they'll just basically, yep, we'll actually fund this. Are you still interested? Yes. And then they just basically go forward from there. So like I said, siren system on there is a good deal. Now that's not within your plan, but if you're looking at something like that, we can add that to the plan. So we just would work that in there. The grant itself is this grant is an 80-15-10 grant, which means it's 80% funded by the federal government, 10% funded by the state, and 15% locally. So if you have a $100,000 project, technically you're responsible to pay for $15,000 of that. It's a reimbursement grant. But again, it's a pretty good deal to get something, especially smaller projects where sometimes they can kind of slip through the cracks in a sense. So a lot of times the projects that the state of Iowa already has laid out there, some of them are quite large. And a lot of the money they use right now is actually doing buyouts of property that have been flood prone, which is actually a great program. They're creating green zones in communities saying, well, we're tired of paying for you to be, living in this floodplain. They're going to buy the property. They're reimbursing the cities 100% for that. And then they create a green space so those residents go under flooded. So it's a great way to use that money. But again, that's a good program. The BRIC grant is done annually. So actually, they just released the 2024 information on that. That is though competitive at a national level. So you would compete against everybody within the United States. And where the state of Iowa has an issue with this is that one of the ways that they grade the projects they're looking at, giving it points, is requirement for city building codes or building codes. The state of Iowa obviously does not require building codes within the state. So that makes a lot of jurisdictions in the state of Iowa less competitive because they're already behind the power curve when it comes to getting points. In a sense, the state of Iowa and other states have identified that to the federal government, but nothing's been done to fix that. They're aware of it. Our state's aware of it. It is what it is, unfortunately. The flood mitigation assistance grant is one that just came out again too. That's an annual grant. That's competitive on a annual basis. But obviously, a lot of those projects are geared towards flooding, which obviously you guys are not really in a floodplain. So that would be one that would be probably harder to be eligible for. So again, this packet kind of explains all that information, lets you know what it's about, some of the projects they're looking at. The state has some priorities on there, like backup generators, sirens are on there as priority projects and other things. So again, that's in that packet there. The next thing is just a brief explanation of how the National Flood Insurance Program works, which all the jurisdictions do participate in. The benefit of that is, number one, you need it to be eligible for a lot of these grants. And secondly, it does actually make people eligible for federal insurance for flooding. But again, not something normally that you worry about here in Postville. Hopefully not. So, though oddly enough, in the city of Waukon, they did have an urban flood, a few years ago, and they had all that water. So it can happen where you don't think it's going to happen, and things like that. So, the next one is this little sheet right here. This is actually the grants that I was just talking about, and the ones that are open for potential use. Basically, what you do is submit a notice of interest. They're pretty simple to do. I just did one today for the My Next EMPG grant. It's usually one page. You basically submit, hey, I'm interested in this project. This is what we're looking at. And basically the state reviews that, and then basically, or the federal government, and they come back and say, yeah, you do an application and stuff like that. So, but obviously, like I mentioned, I forgot to mention my note here. There are a lot of other grants out there, which you guys obviously are familiar with and utilize. There's HUD grants, USDA grants, rural development grants, CDBGs, all the gamuts. I don't have visibility on those. They have different requirements. So they're not per se require a hazard mitigation grant program or a hazard mitigation plan, but if they do, you've got one already and stuff like that. So this next page, this last one here, kind of in there, this is the state of Iowa website that's utilized for grant information. It has links on there, like to go to MDU Grants Pro, which is where actually you do your grant application for these 3 grants that I just talked about. It's got all the information. I just want to make sure you guys are aware where that's at. Real quick, back to this thing right here. The actual plan's about 270 pages long. I don't expect you to read the plan. Chapter 5 is basically what talks about the potential projects that have been identified. Actually, what I did is I broke down all that information in this nice little 14-page document. Kind of shows all the projects you guys as a city had identified. Within that, basically, a lot like your purchasing, acquiring, demolishing damaged buildings. That's probably not going to be one of these grants, most likely. But again, if you're interested, like I said, in a backup generator or something, a siren, that would be something that would be in there. Otherwise, some of these projects are things I'm going to work with you all on, with the city, our volunteer program that we're working on currently with the county, or with county residents, working on a shelter plan, working on a railroad response plan. Obviously, you guys have rail coming through on things like that. So again, just some various things. I'll let you look through the packet without going through. I did highlight those in your packet, so it's easier to find. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. More than happy to come back, talk to you in depth, whatever you may have. Like I said, you guys know how to get hold of me. I know that's a lot of information, very quick, I talk fast. I realize that too. But again, just wanted to kind of, like I said, my goal is that I don't take this plan, put it on the shelf for 5 years and forget about it. I want to make sure we get it out in front of everybody every year. You're my last city that I have to do. I have only one school district left to do. It takes me about 2.5 months to get to everybody because you all meet on Monday nights and stuff. So you're actually my third one today. Harper's Ferry meets during the day, so they make it easier. I can do kind of work them into it a little bit easier. So, but any questions for me?
That's a lot of information.
So yeah, I know you guys got a lot of stuff tonight to go through. So like I said, please, like I said, take some time to look through that. Again, any questions, let me know. So
Well,
Highlighting Postville stuff.
yeah,
so,
yeah, that's cool. But I got a comment maybe.
okay.
I'm taking a look at, and I don't know how many years, Corey, we've gone through these, just in the positions I've held. But in a lot of times I'd say, I don't know if this really amounts to much. But I take a look at what's happening around our country today. And I think this is very important. I mean, I got a hell of a lot more respect for this today than I had a week ago. Just to the fact that I think that there's areas that, if you take a look at what I'm watching, I'm pretty sure there's no plan. There was no plan involved. And I'm talking about California. And this is very important. Like I said, I'm going to take it way more serious than I did before. But it's like we've got things that could happen in our city that nobody ever thinks about, but they're there. And the biggest thing is, when it happens, how do you get out? I think it's.
And to follow up on that, one of the things I'm going to do this year, I started last year. Obviously, you get things kind of that take priority. For me, it's all, I've got a zillion pokers in the fire. What's ever the hottest? Kind of like that door in the courthouse. That's an inside joke with Lori. That's what I'm talking about. But this year, my goal is to actually do evacuation sheltering tabletops in each community, because obviously we want to look at specific hazardous materials. You guys kind of have the cake here in Postville. You've got natural gas, you've got the rail, you've got chemicals on both sides of the city, you've got agricultural. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Fortunately, we haven't seen that for the most part, but that's where we want to make sure we're prepared to how do we evacuate people, where do we put them temporarily. We definitely know we need to do a better job than that, put at least a plan together. Again, we can't build a perfect plan, but at least have a concept. And that's one area. And obviously in Postville too, we also have to look at, again, have a very diverse population, making sure that we, the language, other things like that we're prepared for that. So this is definitely a project I want to work on later this year. And again, I'll be getting with you down the road once we get ready to do that and, do a tabletop here at the city level, inviting you guys as government, fire, EMS, law enforcement and stuff like that. And then going through and figuring out what's the best way to obviously communicate, get people into safety until things can get taken care of. So, but no, yeah, definitely. I look at things like what's going on in California and other parts of the world, obviously, Palestine with the rail derailment. We try and look at those things. What can we learn from those, and what can we try and do at our level here? So appreciate the comments. So
Corey, my grandkids are in sports in Wisconsin, and I've been in these beautiful gyms that are the school and they're tornado shelters.
Right.
And so they get federal money to build these beautiful gyms that also double as.
And that's something
Can
that
we do that in Iowa?
Yes, you can do that. Obviously, a school can do that if they want to build a new gymnasium. They can actually utilize it as a secondary shelter. It's actually there's a program for that. Okay. Obviously, there's I think Postville had looked at that, but that would be like if they were looking at building a new some type of sport, gymnasium kind of thing like that. But yeah, that's nationwide. That money is available for that and stuff that through the school systems and things. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. seem like a good way to.
It kind of kills two birds with
tornado
one stone.
shelter
Yeah.
and a nice gym, so,
Yep.
yeah.
So biggest thing with tornado shelters, actually, when they look at funding those, you have to look, you can only look at the population that's within 5 minutes of walking distance. So technically that's one of the requirements. So you can't look at your whole community. Actually, so it kind of depends where your school's at
Sure, yeah.
versus the demo, how many people actually live within 5 minutes of walking, because that's what they figure there's about the amount of time, realistically about the amount of time you would have to get to a shelter given tornado notifications, stuff like that. So you can't even use the whole city. It's got to be within that 5 minute perimeter there. So sometimes that might actually make you less eligible, because all of a sudden a lot of schools are built in the middle, built outside of town where there's not as many people and stuff. So
Well, the one in Prairie would be right smack in the middle of town. So.
anything else? Otherwise, thank you very much.
Right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to item 8 then. Resolution number 1447-25. That is a resolution approving Postville Herald as the official publication for the city of Postville.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
I mean, I know that's our town paper. Is this so that, I mean, it is kind of our town paper. Why would we have to do this?
You don't necessarily have to, but they requested us to do it. And it's just so you let the public know that's where their public notices would be.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, then I will move to accept resolution or proposed resolution 1447-25.
Second.
Harrison, whenever you're ready.
Moore,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Ingstrom,
Yeah.
Engelhardt.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item 9 then is resolution number 1446-25, a resolution directing the clerk to publish notice of hearing on the adoption of the proposed code of ordinances of the city of Postville, Iowa. Darcy, why don't you explain a little bit
Yeah,
of that?
so as you know, we've been working on updating our entire code of ordinances. I think we've been at it for 3 years. It is finally finished. So basically this is adopting your entire code book with the latest Iowa codes, everything up to date. We also then will be having a subscription on our website where you can click a link and you will see up to date city codes as this, as they're allowed. So we'll go away from how they're set up now. It'll be a more up to date code section. So you have to give the community notice to have a hearing, and you'll be adopting it by ordinance, which will be at your next regular meeting.
So then this will all be online too.
Yeah,
so it's
your
a
code
lot more
book will be-
accessible than
Well, it
just-
currently is online. They're just,
Mm.
so you've had some ordinances that you updated or adopted, though we haven't been updating those on our website
Oh.
because knowing that we're doing a full code update, that this link will be being established. So
But don't we have an old code book that's like a 3-ring binder?
you do you have it at home?
Can we throw that? Yes, I do.
No, you need to bring it in so Heather can change out your pages.
So we just throw it away.
No, don't throw it
Oh.
away.
Okay. I sleep on it every night. That's why the lights are on at 2 a.m.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
The only question I have on that, Darcy, is in that resolution,
Mhm.
it says the public hearing will be held in the council chambers the 10th day of February.
Mhm. That's your next count.
Oh, February.
That's your next
Ugh.
council meeting,
Okay.
right? Your next regular scheduled
Yeah,
meeting.
I
Yep.
had a mental.
Oh, sorry. You gave
Sorry.
me a stroke.
Yeah, I had a little stroke there. For a minute.
Okay.
Never mind.
You over it?
You okay?
It's healed.
All right.
Sorry.
But think Ben's here.
New equipment.
So we need a
Sorry.
motion, please.
Pray for it.
I move we accept resolution number 1446-25.
Second,
Second.
whenever you're ready, Darcy.
Moore,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
Moody,
Yep.
Ingstrom,
Yeah.
Engelhardt.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item 10, it is the consent agenda. Is there anything in there that you folks want to talk about?
I'm trying to think of where where 231 East Tilden is. It's in the alley though, right?
Right, yeah.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's just back in there something about a hotel at 164 West Tilden.
Yeah, and we're currently working with the attorney that's been hired by the owner of that property for a building permit for a hotel.
Where is that?
It's the old Casey's next to the
Okay.
post office.
Okay.
Like a 2 or 3 story?
2-story.
Really? Where are you seeing that? Here, in this thing.
Okay. And the other question, I think this is in the consent agenda for the police. PD number 3 is going to the academy. Who is that?
Jacob
Jacob what?
Connor started
He's the one that we met last time.
one that they got sworn in
Yeah, sworn in.
Okay.
Yeah.
how many months ago?
Well,
It's
maybe,
been a couple.
yeah,
2 months.
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Yeah, started last
Was there
last Monday.
was there more that was applying to?
Was didn't work out,
Didn't work out. Okay.
but nope, didn't work.
Talk about it later.
Okay. How many police officers do we have right now?
You know,
Yeah, I mean, we've been short.
4 full-time.
we're 3 right now, full time.
They
4,
are-
4
4.
full time.
Like, really? Where'd one go?
3
4.
full time,
Okay.
4 as soon as Jacob gets out of the academy, which
4
we-
full-time, 2
Are you
part-time.
one of them? I mean, are you considered one?
Yeah.
Okay, you? Who else?
Sierra, JT, and Jacob. But Jacob won't be available until after April.
That's the one what he, because it says PD3.
That's his number.
That's his number.
That's his number.
Oh.
PD3 is his number.
Matt's PD1.
I'm 1, Sierra's 2, JT or Jacob's 3, JT's 4.
Okay, I just wondered what went to the ordering
Because
process, you know.
we try to keep the same. Because then if you change the number, then you got to get through the DPS and change out everything on your computers and everything.
Okay,
So it's just
that was kind of why that's all.
yeah,
the
it's
question
just
came about.
we really don't retire the number. We just kind of give the say if I leave, someone
Right.
will take over as PD1.
There's no hierarchy in the numbering system.
No,
You know.
nope.
Okay.
Okay, we need a second, right?
Right.
Second. Mary did. Okay, whenever you're ready.
More.
Yes.
This is,
Mar.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Engstrom.
Yes.
Engelhardt.
Yes.
That's fine.
that was on the consent agenda, wasn't it?
Right.
All
Yeah.
Okay,
Now you're all thrown off.
okay, now we're to 11.
Mhm.
All right. Resolution for money to pay the bills. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
2,
Larry, I'll second it.
okay. Whenever you're ready, Doris.
Moore.
Yes.
Mar.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Engstrom.
Yes.
Engelhardt.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item 12 then is budget work session.
All right. So just one item that we'll just kind of look over tonight. I laid it out for you is the capital improvement draft that I've been working with the employees on. So I'll just kind of give you a little heads up. So our valuations are up 2 million. That only generates about $10,000 more in your general fund.
What is the valuation?
Are up 2 million, and that only generates $10,000 more in your general fund. So that's basically all the increase that you're going to see coming in the general fund. So I've met with the city employees, and I pretty much am working on their budgets. I should have all that together for you by the 20th, which is when we're looking at doing a budget workshop. So I think we're looking at 6 o'clock start time, making sure everybody knows that.
And what date is that?
That's a Monday,
Monday? Is Monday?
January 20th.
Now, on that, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit.
Sure.
That, meeting that's in February 10th and our regular meeting, are we gonna start at the regular time?
You started,
Seven?
I gotta think.
It said at 7 on that thing.
Did it?
Okay, I guess. Okay.
I'll
I
have
have
to,
it on my
I'll have to
calendar,
think.
but-
I'll have to look.
Okay.
Or what, the regular time?
Is this one that we have to have?
Yeah, you have to, it'll be regular time because you don't have your truth and taxation until after the auditor sends out
Okay.
the notices, which is March 20th, and you have to wait 5 days for people to get them. And then that next meeting that you have after that would start earlier because you'd have a separate meeting for the truth and
Yeah.
taxation so people can come or not come.
So that's the March meeting or the
You know, you'd be looking at April because
April,
those
yeah.
truth and taxation don't go out until March 20th.
And that's after.
Yeah, so your next meeting is your normal regular scheduled time in February. So anyway, your capital improvement plan, I just wanted to leave it for you to review and have it for the 20th. I did highlight in red what we're looking at possibly doing the next fiscal year as far as larger items. The Ziegler water project, I'm not sure if we'll get through the whole thing yet this spring. You know, we did budget for that, or if there'll be some carryover in July. Depends on how that project goes and what the timetable is. So anyway, this is just for your review.
That's the Roca Trail.
The Roca Trail is the sidewalk out to the Roca that you guys all paid an
Oh,
engineer
okay.
to do.
Right.
He gave me an estimate of 250,000. My thought would be that if we're borrowing for Ziegler Cat, that we would pull in that 250,000 if it works out and be able to make that trail happen. Or I should say glorified sidewalk, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That'll be nice. It'll be nice to get that.
So anyway, that's pretty much all I had for you tonight. You got a lot of information to look through on your request and just kind of keep in the back of your mind, you know, what I'm telling you, those dollars are. Everything's going up. Your utilities, I think we're seeing over a 12% increase. Insurance has gone up.
that's good.
Okay, your wages that you set through your union contract. Yeah, so
Just like everything. So if they lower property tax in the state of Iowa, that's gonna cut our income too.
it will, yes. That makes a difference.
We're not at public.
No,
Not yet,
you're not
no.
there yet.
Okay,
No.
okay.
We're still talking budget.
Budget, okay.
Yeah.
So unless you're done talking budget, then
Yeah.
we can be done.
We can go on. Are you done with the public workshop? Everybody?
Any
All right.
questions? Okay.
Okay, I mean not the budget, yes. Okay, then we can go on to public comment yet.
This goes back to this question for Matt here in your report. What is simulated public in talks?
There's a code out there that
Faking?
there's a code out there that if you were simulating that you're either drug or alcohol related, there's a charge out there for it.
Really? And then the other one is persons in certain occupations intent with injury.
So EMS, fire, and law enforcement, if you get any harassed or threatened by an individual, that's what they're meaning. That's what that charge is for.
If somebody in those emergency providing services was threatened. Okay. Okay. Well, that could happen. People deal with
Happens
people-
all the time. It happens all the time.
Sure
Yeah.
does. Yeah. More questions, Larry?
Yeah, one other one here. Put the globe back up in Lowe's Park after a complaint. This is on street report, but
Yeah, that was a bulb, the globe cover over the light in
Yeah.
the Lowell's Park. It must have blown off and we had a complaint, so
Oh.
they went and put it back on.
Okay. I just thought it was nice to turn the lights on.
We had to pay electric motor shop to do some repairs.
Okay, that's really loud.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's all my questions are. So
Okay.
they're not really financial questions, but
Okay. Well, we're down to the mayor's report. This morning, Darcy and I sat through a conference or a teleconference, whatever you call it, with the DOT.
I was there.
Yes, and so was Becky. And if you remember, that came from Raul Martinez.
Mhm.
He was in last month requesting, didn't know if everything was kosher out here on the sidewalks, the new sidewalks, you know, and the slopes and all of that. So we got at it and got the DOT and the concrete company or the folks that did the work. So I don't know if we sat through it. It was very short. I mean,
I was surprised that it was.
yeah. And I guess what we learned, I guess if you want to tell, anybody complains to you about, first of all, let's talk the sidewalk. All right. Now, if you remember, before that sidewalk was all one piece. You know, it wasn't sawed like it is now. It was not level, and then it sloped off to the curb. It was all one piece. So now, so what they did was made that ADA compliant is the flat part. And then they made a saw cut and went from there down to the curb, which put that slope on it. Right or wrong, that made it compliant.
Yeah. So it wasn't compliant originally because it was sloped.
The way
Okay.
we had it before.
Yeah.
the whole thing was one solid piece that was.
That sloped and
Yes.
it was not ADA compliant.
Right.
So now it is ADA compliant.
It's compliant. Yes. Yes.
No, they talked to and they showed pictures like at Walkout where they have yellow
Mhm.
markings. Are we gonna maybe?
Yeah.
post Those up?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so then, you know, I think we had, if you take a look at the ramps that are there, you know, for that come off the sidewalk down to the street and across, and then so and they made the claim, and it makes perfect sense, you know, because when you start pouring concrete, you've got different elevations everywhere, you know, and so to make it compliant, that means you had to put probably a curb like where these ramps are, you know, you got the ramp and then the side is actually a curb. Well, that could cause somebody to stumble if you're not looking where you're going, you know. So the question being is, can we go ahead and put some paint on that to brighten it up so folks, you know, can tell the difference? So that's, I think we'll have summer help again this next summer, and we'll do some painting.
Well, to be honest, I never thought they were that. I didn't think they were bad. Personally, when I walked on one, but maybe because I'm not old enough, or I'm not disabled, maybe.
Right. You know, and then honestly, sometimes you got to keep your eyes open.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
You know.
Very welcome. But Sandy said there are. You know,
Yes.
she's seen several people trip there. You know,
Yep.
not handicapped or any. You know,
Yep.
so.
Well, and when I looked at them, I'm wondering if it isn't because like it's all the same color and like
Yeah.
maybe if they're elderly and have a little hard time seeing anyway.
Yeah.
You know, they just.
Yeah, that's why we think.
So you're recommending a little paint.
I can't recommend anything. I
No,
just
but
after
you-
the last council meeting, I went and looked at it and so I was like, okay, what's the issue? And then I looked at it and I was like, okay, I can see where like if you had a little trouble with vision or it was dark or something, you might just step off that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, maybe I could paint them that way. That way people walk around or something.
Sure. Yep. I think that'll happen. Yep. Anything else out of that meeting, you guys?
No.
No. I've got nothing else to say. How about council? Any comments?
Yeah, this here was this some email you got from Amanda Tribon Boyd. It has to do with council pay or
No, I gave you that so you weren't questioning why you didn't have a larger check because it doesn't take effect till 26. That's why I gave you all a
Yeah,
copy of that
yeah,
so
yeah.
you'd remember it.
and that just
I figured Larry would be the one asking.
Ourselves an increase.
Right.
So therefore, we have to go through another election cycle?
No, yeah,
Yeah,
before
yeah,
before the ordinance takes effect, yes. So you've already passed the ordinance, but it does not take effect till after the next election.
And go to the whole funding of campaign.
Well, you guys, but see, it's like us guys that are on this next year's cycle.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
us three.
Yeah.
Okay, so you three then will get an increase?
So will
No.
you.
What?
Yeah, we all.
So will you. We
Yeah,
just got
January
to.
Not our election.
Right.
An
The
election.
next
And
election.
election.
And election,
And
okay.
the next
Yes.
election.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
yours.
And that'll happen when? In 2 years?
November.
November of this year, so it goes into effect January of 26
Yes.
Okay.
is when the
I
ordinance
know we
goes
had
into
that
effect.
discussion about it.
Yep.
It did.
I wasn't sure if it was
Is there two of you or just one?
everybody's election.
There's always
Mary
three.
and
Always three?
So
Oh, wow.
Does the circus
Yeah,
gonna come
harsh.
to town again this November?
Mhm.
That was just fast.
No,
the election
the
circus.
mayor, Mary,
Okay,
and
Yeah.
we might break
Becky.
even.
yeah.
We might break even.
Should have
Right.
had a grant.
Wow. It's always been 3 and 3.
3 and 3, yeah.
Campaign grant, yeah.
I still have my receipts on the fridge just in case.
So, okay, anybody else?
Well, I have a question on, this deals with the library and insurance, but, you know, like Uzi said, like, none of this happens with in-hog buildings and stuff like that. You cannot insure what you do not own. So if the library pays for the insurance and they don't own the building,
The city does, the city owns the library.
Correct.
okay, I mean, just because the city, even though there's a check
pool-
come from
the
the
pool-
city of Postville.
The pool pays for their insurance as well out of their funds.
Okay.
It's just how
I
you're
just want
divvying the
that was
funds.
a technicality, you know, you have a building of 2,500 pigs, they'll get gas, and everybody's going like this.
Sure.
You know, whose is it? And everybody, you got insurance for that, don't you? You got insurance for that, don't you? Finds out nobody had the right coverage. They didn't
But
ask the
now-
right question.
City pays for the insurance for this building, Turner Hall.
We pay for every single city building. I think what's confusing is our library is different than most cities. Usually the money stays with the city and they're just paying the bills.
bills.
Where the library, for some reason, our library, we write them checks. So they're managing their own.
Money. But how,
Yeah.
what I'd like to know, how come I'd like to know, like, back in 2001, they had a donation of 55,000, and how come it changed so much in the 20-some years since then, you know? You'd think it'd have been going up.
I think it went down to 30 something at one point, although that could have been before.
It depends on, they might have had money in reserves. You get what I'm saying? Because they have their own bank account. So they have money in savings, they have money in CDs. So the council's always looking at that.
Should that in the pool, should they be changed?
I would actually, that's
If
something
they
I'm
were
going to be
changed, the fire
talking to you
department, I
about.
think it's been a plus.
It's something
in
I'm going to be
terms of,
talking to you about.
The two entities, getting along better, understanding better. I'm not saying we have friction with the library, but I'm just saying, to me, that looks like it's an abnormality in city, how the city's run.
Correct.
Well, and one thing too is like the pool is open, what, 3 months or 2 months in the summer, and the library is open 24. I mean, all
Yeah.
week there.
But your swimming pool costs you an astronomical amount of money to operate.
I know it does, and for such a short time.
Yeah.
And then the library has costs a lot of money to get things there too. And anyway, I can wait till the budget meeting.
It's open to the public, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys ready to be done tonight, or are we still talking?
Yep. Anything else? Now, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Carried. So Laura's here.